I was asked about interfaith dialogue, so what should be the basic principles of interfaith dialogue? As you know, in our world, many people talk about interfaith discussions or interfaith relations, so what are the basic principles of such an interfaith dialogue for those who are doing it? For example, I often talk with people of other faiths, and even collaborate sometimes. So I myself am against that kind of interfaith dialogue, which is so much in style nowadays, and which is mostly based on indoctrination, like we are all the same, all religion are the same, let's unite all religion, and so on. So this is bullshit. This is not the type of interfaith dialogue that I promote. So I think that if we engage in interfaith dialogue, we should be very clear from the start. We respect each other, but we are different, and we follow different religious paths. Okay, that's very important. So I think that human conflict will not stop if we adhere to the same religion, or if we deny the differences amongst us. And so contrary to this, the true interfaith dialogue presupposes the absence of fear of differences. We should not fear the differences between us, and we should accept the others as they are. For example, when I meet with my Christian friends, I know that they think their religion is the best, and they also know I think my religion is the best, and nobody gets upset, So we don't need to share the same ideas of faith, but we can be friends. We can drink a beer together. We can respect each other, and we can follow some simple common sense rules, the same rules that allow two neighbors to live together, door to door, in the same building, I believe that the true faith means interfaith dialogue means just to be friends. I know, nothing else, I mean, I think that we can be friends even if the other does not share the same opinions like us, even if he's convinced that his religion is the best. And I think it's the natural right of any person to believe that his religious system is the best. And this fundamental right should never be replaced with that stupid ideology of political correctness, I think that when political correctness is applied in religion, it leads to relativism, and destruction of the same religions we try to attune. So with things like, you cut a little from my faith, you cut a little from your faith, I cut a little from mine, we both end in following stubs of ideas, devoid of any life and authentic experience. So this is not the right way to do interfaith dialogue. I don't believe in interfaith dialogue that says that all religions should be the same, and we should try to find ways to accommodate each other's beliefs. See, it's very difficult like this. And I don't know, if you guys have friends who are not Buddhists, you can share your experience with us here.
I'm very clear, like in my videos and at work and everywhere else, it's like you believe what you want to believe. But in my videos, it's also clear I am not in sync with any other religion other than Jodo Shinshu, because that is where Amida is, that is where my Shinjin resides. And if I pretend that we're all the same, like Thich Nhat Hanh, and say we're all the same, we're all it's a different form, then I'm betraying Amida Buddha and the primal vow, because the primal vow is the supreme vow. In my life, there is no question of this. And I've had people who were Christians in various places who tried to, if they try to preach Jesus to me or something, I just remain silent and ignore it. And I've come out to people, customers and other people at work and elsewhere. I had an apartment manager try to preach to me, and I said, I'm not going to debate. And I led him to, the Amida website that gives all information about what I believe. And I said, here, if you want to find out what I believe, here it is. But my faith also in Amida means I am also faithful to Amida. I'm not going to betray him by watering down what I know to be true. And I know the primal vow is the only truth for me. Didn't mean to go on so long, but that's how I feel.
Yes. And it's useless, Yes, I always show them the red line. My friends know the red line. And I also know the red line with them. And we never cross it, We don't make propaganda. But sometimes they ask me out of curiosity. This, I think, is the best way of action, to be available for them if they get curious, And anybody gets curious. When I had social activities with my Christian friends, they always get curious and ask questions. So I got a lot of chances to speak about Buddha Dharma with them because they are curious. So I think the best way of action is that we to be an example of faith ourselves, and to be friends with them, and to be available for them if they need us. And sooner or later they will need us. Sooner or later they will get curious, and then we introduce them to the Buddha Dharma. That's important, It is said that even if one sees an image of the Buddha, even if that image is ugly, even if he has a bad reaction to the image of Buddha, and he goes to hell for this because he insults the image of the Buddha, it is still very good for him that he saw an image of the Buddha, because he was introduced to the Buddha. And sooner or later he will become a Buddha because of that. So you Joshin, also have t-shirts with the Buddha, with Amida Buddha.
Yes, I'm wearing one right now.
That's also a good
and that's
way
why I wear it. I want people to see the Buddha, to see this is a Buddhist. He's wearing Buddhist prayer beads. Obviously, this means something to him, even if they don't know what it means.
I see.
I had like a general advice. What would be advice to I have certain like family members. I know I've told you, Joshua, like they would be curious about Amida Dharma, and then all of a sudden they would like try to talk to me about like Islam and all that. But I never asked them a question, but they asked me, and I told them, okay, you wanted to know about Amida Dharma, and I never asked you anything about, because I studied Islam myself and I don't agree with it. And they would just get so mad, and then they would start like preaching it, and I would cut them off immediately. I'll be like, no, we're not going to do this, because I don't want to argue about this. You asked me a question about my faith and what I believe in my system, I will share with you if you ask me. But once they try to like down talk to me about what they believe, I was like, no, I never asked you anything. So it would be like just advice from you. I only like walk away. That's what I would do. For me, that's what I usually would do.
Yes, I mean it's impossible to talk with somebody who is not in a learning mood, and you should not sit there and listen to to other religions, to their preaching.
It's very confusing because one minute they would ask me about like, they would be curious about like Amitabha and the faith, and then 1 second they would be like, okay, why don't we compare this story? I was like, no, we're not going to compare any story. You asked me, I never asked you about anything. It just reminds me of like what my stepdad, me and him were talking about, like vegetarian food, because he's also like sort of a vegetarian, because many years ago he used to eat like a lot of meat, and he saw like from me that I became a vegetarian. I believe that he saw me and he got inspired by it, and so he barely even eats it anymore. And me and him were talking about like vegetarian food, and all of a sudden he just switches it to like Islam, and I was just like, what? And I was like, I immediately cut him off. I was like, no, we're not going to talk about this. I thought we were talking about vegetarian food. And he just kept talking, and I just walked away. And I was like, okay, that's ridiculous.
No. If somebody asks you a question, then they have to play by your rules, Then you ask me a question, if they ask you a question, they have to follow the rules of discussions that you impose, because you are asked to give an answer. So you have to lead the discussion, not them. So you are like in a strategic game. Never ever make a war on the territory chosen by your enemy, but always on the territory chosen by you. So you have to lead the discussion. And
yes, it just like reminds me, because like my mom will always start to try like an argument with me, and I would always walk away, and she would all the time talk about what I did happen like 2 years ago, and I was like, what does it matter anymore? That was a while ago. And I know my mom would like always try to start argument with me, and I would just like walk away, because there was no winning with my mom. It's just ridiculous.
Yes.
One Christmas Eve on Facebook, I had a message in Messenger from a relative I hadn't spoke to in 30 years. And I went to this person's Facebook profile page, and it said, I'm a writer and a Jesus freak. And I just blocked her. And I was like, I know why I'm being contacted after 30 years. It has nothing to do with love. It's about converting me on Christmas Eve. And there's no point. And I've had people come and try to argue, and I just say, I'm not talking about this. And I'll give them a reference. If you want to know what Jodo Shinshu teaches, and I'll lead them to Josho and on whatever format he's on. But I will not engage in an argument.
Yes. Yes, indeed. This talk, we talk with people only if they are in a learning mood, only if they really want to know. Many people, if anybody wants to mock us or he just asks questions because he wants to engage in debate, that we can simply go away. Or if you really want a debate, you can have a debate, but I don't know if you like a debate, Sometimes I was in situations when 2 or 3 people attacked me, and then I didn't walk away. At that moment, I wanted to fight, and it was a fight. But they were not impressed, They didn't impress me. I didn't impress them. Perhaps it was a waste of time. But there were some people there in the audience who are listening to both arguments, and because of them, I wanted to defend Buddhism and attack some points in their religion that I found crazy, and this is why. But you are not forced into do this. So just do what you can, and that's all. And don't forget that these people, let's try not to hate them, because we are in a better position than them. We met the Buddha Dharma. We entrusted to Amida Buddha. We will become Buddhas soon. So we have nothing to lose, you know, if they treat us bad. That's it. This is what they. This is their level. That's their level of spiritual development, and they are poor beings. They put their faith into a fake god. You know, that's pitiful. We don't need to hate.
I never understood how they could receive the love of such a god like that, because it's just so cruel. I know you've seen like the passages. I never could understand. And when I like try to like confront them about it, they would be like, "Oh no, we have to follow. That's what it says." I was like, that sounds so like BS to me. I was like, who's gonna take this? And I remember the first time I read Buddha's teachings, and it just blew me away. And I remember when my parents asked about it, they're like, "Oh, how could you take a message from a man?" I was like, first off, he wasn't a man. And I explained to them, I was Muslim at this time. Even though I had a deep respect for the Buddhists back then, I never once slandered them. Even though they do not like anything that's human. But even though Buddha was not a human, he's an enlightened being. And I shared them with the teachings. He said, like, "Oh, that doesn't sound like from a god." I was like, "No, it's from an enlightened being. Obviously, Buddha's not a god," but it just irritated me.
Yes. Yeah, you have lots of experience because you come from a Muslim family and you know the sacred texts of Islam, and you know many.
I read it 8 times, the holy book.
You know those passages that show what kind of being they worship. You know about the violence.
I used to fight with myself all the time because I remember one time I tried to like force myself to follow, but I regret doing that because I just saw through the crap of it, because it just wasn't like, I don't know, it's just with the, you know, like the halal meat, like how how they do like recite Bismillah Wallahu Akbar on the meat. So that's what, and that reminded me of like what Buddha said in the sutras, like only ghosts like or spirits would ask the smell of blood. And I remember I was like, oh, okay, that makes so much more sense. And I was like, a true God wouldn't ask for any meats, especially, you remember the Brahmin story where Buddha went to the heaven realm? I remember that one, and he never asked for any sacrifices from what I saw. He never asked for anything.
Yes, and in halal meat is comes from animals that are killed while invoking the name of their god. This is what they do.
Yes, I remember even when I was born, like they have this tradition in Bosnia, like they would cut like the child's hair, and however long the child's hair is, you would have to divide the money, but you would have to like slaughter an animal. Or sometimes they'll like recite like a prayer call in your ear as soon as you're born. And I just remember telling my mom, I was like, what is the point of that? I was like, they're like, oh, it's just the culture. But my mom was never really religious. My whole family's not religious at all. They only follow because it's just part of their culture. But as soon as I started becoming religious, they turned their back on me. And then when I left it was even a bigger deal. I just never could understand it.
Yes. The relation between parents and children are the effect of past karma. See.
No, go ahead.
No, please.
Some of my parents, they even slandered the Buddha, and I had so many times I actually wanted to hurt them like really badly, and I did. I only pushed one of my parents, and yeah, because I just lost control. And some of them, like, it's really tough for me, but yes. I'm grateful, because I remember a couple of years ago they used to fight me, and now like years later they're actually starting to get curious, and they're like, oh, what is Shinjin? What is why are you a vegetarian? What is the precepts? And they would get curious about it. But I know they play this game of like, because it's like kind of like a control game. I would share with them, and then they would immediately share what they would say, even without me asking them anything.
Yes, it's important that you avoid becoming violent with them. That's important, you know, because you know Buddha does not need to be defended violently by anybody, because if somebody insults Buddha, Buddha does not feel insult. He's actually he can't be insulted. His mind is beyond insult and praise. Only your ego is actually insulted, you know. But the Buddha does not need that. The Buddha does not want your ego to be inflamed because somebody insulted him. There is no need for that, you know. So just know that Buddha can't be hurt by anybody, and he doesn't give a shit on insult or praise, you know.
Yes.
Yes. So you can also be relaxed. When somebody insults the Buddha, you can simply laugh, because, and you can say that Buddha can't be insulted because he's beyond insult. You know, only your God, only their God needs praise, because he's hungry for attention. Their God is hungry for attention, but the Buddha is not. Okay. It is useful for us. Yes, it is useful for us to praise the Buddha and trust to the Buddha and worship Buddha, but it's no use for him. Yes. Okay. So thank you very much for sharing this with us. Let's thank you. Let's say a few Nembutsu to thank Amida Buddha for this meeting, for everything that we received in this meeting. Namo Amitabho, 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 Namo Amitabho. Namo Amitabho. Thank you, guys.